It's really buried under centuries of sand and silence. That is the rule of history, and it is nearly universal. Iran broke the rule. Over the last 2,500 years, the land and people we now call Iran have been conquered by Greeks, Arabs, Turks, and Mongols. They have seen their capitals burned, their libraries destroyed, and their ruling dynasties erased entirely, some of them more than once. And yet the Persian language survived every invasion. The poetry of Rumi and Hafez, written under foreign occupation, became the literary inheritance of the entire Islamic world. A civilization that should have been absorbed and forgotten instead absorbed its conquerors, turning their religions, their languages, and their cultures into something distinctly, defiantly Iranian. How does a civilization do that? How does it bend without breaking again and again across more than 24 centuries? That is the central mystery at the heart of this documentary. In the chapters that follow, we will trace the full arc of Iranian history, the glory and the catastrophe, the empires and the revolutions, the poets and the kings, to uncover what makes this civilization one of the most resilient and most misunderstood in the history of the world. Long before emperors marched their armies across the ancient world, long before the name Persia stirred fear or wonder in distant lands, there was the land itself. The Iranian plateau rises from the earth like a fortress built by nature. Ringed by the Zagros Mountains to the west, the Alborz Range sweeping along the north, and vast salt deserts stretching across its interior, this elevated heartland sits roughly 1 million square miles of mountain, steppe, and arid plain. It is a land of extremes. Winters bite hard in the mountain passes. Summers bake the central lowlands into cracked, pale earth. And yet, along the river valleys and mountain foothills where water found its way, life took hold with remarkable tenacity. This geography was never merely backdrop. It was destiny. The plateau sat at the very crossroads of the ancient world, connecting Mesopotamia to the west with Central Asia to the east and the Indian subcontinent beyond. Any civilization rising here would absorb, resist, and ultimately shape the great currents of human history flowing around it. The earliest permanent settlements appeared thousands of years before the Common Era, in the fertile lowlands near what is today the southwestern region of Iran. Here, in the shadow of the Zagros Mountains, arose one of history's most overlooked civilizations, Elam. By around 3000 BCE, the Elamites had built a sophisticated society centered on the city of Susa, a metropolis of temples, administrative buildings, and bustling trade networks. Their script, their art, and their political institutions placed them firmly among the great civilizations of the ancient Near East, contemporaries and rivals of Sumer and Babylon. Susa itself would endure for millennia, changing hands and identities, outlasting empires that believed themselves eternal. Then, beginning around 1500 BCE and continuing for several centuries, something transformative began. From the steppes of Central Asia, waves of semi-nomadic peoples began moving southward and westward onto the Iranian plateau. These were the Indo-Iranian peoples, sometimes called Aryans, a word meaning noble in their own ancient tongue. They brought horses, distinctive pottery, and a reverence for fire that would eventually evolve into one of the world's oldest living religions. Gradually, two major groups settled and consolidated. The Medes established themselves in the northwestern regions, in the cooler highlands near modern-day Hamadan. The Persians drifted further south and east, settling eventually in a region they would call Parsa, known to the Greeks as Persis. For centuries, these groups remained tribal confederations organized around kinship and cattle, largely overshadowed by the thundering empires of Assyria and Babylon pressing in from the west. They were, to outside observers, peripheral peoples of little consequence. But the plateau had a long memory, and the mountains had a habit of producing extraordinary things. For generations, the Medes had lived as scattered highland clans, paying tribute to Assyrian overlords who viewed them as little more than a source of horses and conscript soldiers. But around 700 BCE, something shifted in the mountain kingdoms of the northwest. A chieftain named Dioses, described by the Greek historian Herodotus as brilliant and calculating, understood that survival required unity. He built a reputation as a supremely fair judge, arbitrating disputes between quarreling tribes with such skill that his fame spread across the highlands. Then, in a move of breathtaking political theater, he withdrew his services entirely. As the tribes fell back into chaos, they did the only thing that seemed logical. They made Dioses their king. His first act was to build a capital worthy of that ambition. Ecbatana, situated in the cool highlands near what is today the city of Hamadan, rose from the earth as a monument to Median power. Ancient sources described it in almost mythological terms. A city of concentric walls, each ring painted a different color, the innermost gleaming with silver and gold. Whether the legends matched the reality matters less than what Ecbatana represented, a permanent center of gravity around which a people could organize themselves as something more than a collection of tribes. But it was Dioses' grandson, Cyaxares, who transformed the Median kingdom into a true military empire. Cyaxares was a modernizer. He reorganized his army along professional lines, separating units by weapon type, creating distinct divisions of spearmen, cavalry, and archers. It was a reform that made the Medes genuinely dangerous on an open battlefield. His opportunity came from an unexpected direction. The Assyrian Empire, the most feared military machine the ancient world had yet produced, was cracking under the pressure of constant revolt and internal succession struggles. Cyaxares recognized that even great empires die when they exhaust themselves. He forged an alliance with Nabopolassar of Babylon, cementing it through the marriage of his granddaughter to the Babylonian prince Nebuchadnezzar. Together, they turned on Assyria with devastating coordination. In 612 BCE, their combined armies descended on Nineveh, the Assyrian capital that the prophet Nahum had called the City of Blood. After a siege that lasted months, the walls fell. Nineveh was burned to its foundations. The Assyrian Empire, which had terrorized the ancient Near East for centuries, simply ceased to exist. The ancient world had witnessed nothing quite like it. The Medes claimed the northern and eastern portions of the former Assyrian domains, extending their reach from Anatolia in the west to the borders of Central Asia in the east. Under the last great Median king, Astyages, this empire reached its territorial peak. It was vast, wealthy, and apparently unassailable. And yet within the empire's own borders, in the southern province of Parsa, a Persian prince was growing up in the Median court, watching everything. That Persian prince had a name. Cyrus, second of that name, born of the Achaemenid clan, raised partly in the shadow of his Median grandfather's court. He had watched Astyages rule. He had learned what power looked like from the inside and what its weaknesses were. Around 559 BCE, Cyrus became king of Anshan, a Persian subkingdom within the Median sphere. For a time, he paid his tribute, kept his head down, and waited. Then he stopped waiting. The revolt against Astyages began around 550 BCE, and what followed was less a bloody war than a collapse. Median commanders, deeply resentful of Astyages, defected to Cyrus mid-campaign. The Median army dissolved where it stood. Astyages was captured alive, reportedly treated with mercy, and the great fortified capital of Ecbatana simply changed hands. The Median Empire did not fall in fire. It fell in silence from within. Cyrus absorbed rather than destroyed. Median nobles retained their positions. Median customs and court protocols continued. He understood something that most conquerors never grasped, that the machinery of empire is more valuable than the satisfaction of demolishing it. His next target was Croesus, the fabulously wealthy king of Lydia in western Anatolia. Croesus had famously consulted the oracle at Delphi before marching east, receiving the prophecy that if he crossed the river Halys, he would destroy a great empire. He crossed the river. He did destroy a great empire. His own. The two armies clashed near Sardis around 547 BCE. Croesus retreated, believing the campaign season was over. Cyrus pressed forward through winter, surrounded the Lydian capital, and took it within weeks. The man who had been the richest king in the known world was now a captive. Lydia fell. But what came next would define Cyrus's legacy for 3,000 years. In 539 BCE, Cyrus turned south and east toward Babylon, the greatest city on earth, a metropolis of perhaps 200,000 souls, ringed by walls so massive that the Greek historian Herodotus claimed 2 four-horse chariots could pass each other on top of them. The city seemed impregnable. It surrendered almost without a fight. Babylonian priests and merchants, disenchanted with their own king Nabonidus, opened the gates. Cyrus entered not as a conqueror but as a liberator, grasping the hands of Marduk's statue in the ancient ritual of legitimate kingship. The city celebrated. Then came the act that echoes loudest across history. Cyrus issued a decree, recorded on a small clay barrel now known as the Cyrus Cylinder, that recognized the religious traditions of all peoples within his empire, permitted deportees to return to their homelands, and explicitly repudiated the Assyrian and Babylonian practice of mass forced resettlement. The Jews of Babylon, exiled for decades by Nebuchadnezzar, were free to return to Jerusalem. The Hebrew Bible records Cyrus's name with a reverence reserved for almost no foreign ruler. Isaiah calls him a shepherd, a Messiah. Scholars debate how much of this tolerance was genuine philosophy and how much was brilliant
Good evening. This is Elder G. As you see that Iran was around for over 3,000 years. So Iran, which is called Persia, has been around before Christ. God used Cyrus to set the Jews free and to let the people that went into captivity to come back into the city. This is the very people now that people is claiming that they love God here in America, prejudiced white folks. And claiming that they're the chosen one. But you know that Persia is been around, and you know from your Bible, the King James Version of the Bible, it tells you who Cyrus is. It's the one that God called upon, our God, Elohim. It's the one that called upon Cyrus to go conquer Babylon. Babylon is the one that destroyed the temple and stole all the gold. God used a Persian king to go in and conquer that nation and give people back their freedom. The people that was exiled, they was allowed to come home. The Jews was allowed, the Hebrew was allowed to come back and practice their religion. That's what Iran did. The king of Persia, which is now Iran. That's what they did. Now, this prejudiced white man, Netanyahu, who his parents came from Poland, prejudiced white man, is trying to take over some people that God called to defeat Babylon and to give the Hebrews back their country and the rights to practice their religion. That very country that Iran freed, that practice their religion and to come home, is the very country that they freed and helped them to practice their religion. It's the very country they trying to destroy. Just like President Trump is trying to destroy the Constitution in America, it's because he don't want certain people, the Aryan race, the Caucasian, or what they call white. They don't think that there's nobody better than they are. But you can see God is not with those prejudiced white people. If you look at all the nations that's in the Bible, all those nations are black and brown people. Show me the white people in the Bible. Show it to me. Show me where in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in Jerusalem. Show me that white nation that's in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Show me. The very people that's God people is the black and brown people, is the very people that the prejudiced white people is trying to destroy and trying to destroy their history. But God is not going to let that happen. I'm going to tell you the truth. I feel sorry for the prejudiced white people that think so little of themselves for the little time that they've been around compared to the black and the brown people. And they know that God said whatever go around is going to come around. Whatever a man sows, that shall he reap. The prejudiced white people, they getting and they're going to get everything that's coming to them. Everything that they done did against innocent people. All the country that those prejudiced white people around the world destroying and destroying what race of people, like they went over there in Egypt and shot all the noses off the statues. No matter how many years they tried to erase the history of the black and the brown people and the people that's really God's people. That prejudiced white man is not God's people. people are black and brown. God tell you he formed man from the clay. The only time that you see some white people in the Bible, the only time they talk about white people in the Bible is when they have leprosy. When people get leprosy, and the Bible says that they become white as snow. The Caucasian race from the Bible shows you that the Caucasian race come from leprosy. I ain't trying to put down no Caucasian person. I tell you all the time on my video. Caucasian people taught me what I know right now. I thank Caucasian people all the time. Because during the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Rights Act and all those women's rights, white people died to help black and brown people get their freedom. I'm talking about what's in the Bible. I'm talking about you running around talking about this is a Christian nation and you got "In God We Trust" on the back of your money, and you lying about who's the children of God that was with God in the Garden of Eden when he first formed man. It was not a Caucasian man. You a liar. So the Bible says, if I find you or your statement in any form that turns out to be not true, if you gonna try to destroy another race history just to try to build up your own and to make yourself look good, you can't go back into history and prove that. All you can do is cover it up and destroy. There is no doubt one of the oldest kingdoms and the oldest people is Iran. There's no question. Everybody know that Africa is the home. Everybody know that's where everybody come from. Everybody know where Gihon River is. Everybody know where the Euphrates River is. Everybody know where Hittika is. Everybody know that. And you know those are not white nations, but you go around trying to cover up the facts and misleading people, trying to help people go to hell just because you going to hell. Just because you didn't want to believe God. Just because you didn't want to believe righteousness. But now that Donald Trump that don't know nothing about the Bible has attacked a country that the Bible says in Isaiah the prophet, God called Cyrus to open the two-leaf gate that it will never be shut again. And this hypocrite Netanyahu is trying to make the act like God gave all this to the white man. When Jesus came and died on Calvary, and he told you when he came and died and went back to make a way for us, he said, there's no more male and female in religions. There's no more bond or free. There's no more of that stuff. There's no more circumcision or uncircumcision. We're all children of the Most High God. When Christ came and died on Calvary, we was adopted. I'm talking about the Gentiles. The Gentile was adopted into Abraham's seed. And when Abraham, when the Gentile was adopted and they became Abraham's seed, They became heir. Heir of what, LG? Heir of the promise. The promise was to Abraham and Sarai. Abram and Sarai. That's who God made the promise to. The promised child was Isaac. Abraham is the one that received the promise from God. Isaac was the promise that Abraham and Sarah would have a son. And they shall name him Isaac, which means laughter. And Jacob expanded the promise. Jacob had 12 sons, and each one of those sons become a nation. So to make up the nation of Israel is 12 nations that make up the nation of Israel. That little place over there that they call Israel, that's just a state that was established by the Gentiles, that they could live there. But the true Israel is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God changed Jacob's name to Israel. And Israel had 12 sons. And each one of those sons is a nation. That is 12 Hebrew nations. And there's 12 Egyptian nation, Islam. Isaac is the promised child. Ishmael, God blessed. God blessed Ishmael. So Ishmael had 12 sons, and there was 12 princes. And each one of those princes became a nation. So just like Isaac, just like Jacob had 12 sons, and they became a nation, Ishmael had 12 sons, and they became 12 nations. But the only difference between Isaac and Ishmael, they got the same daddy, Abraham. The only difference between one that's being blessed and the one that's promised. The promised one is the bloodline that Jesus Christ is going to come through. Ishmael, the 12 tribes that became 12 princes, is under the law. The covenant of the law is Ishmael. But the promise that Jesus Christ is going to come through is going to be through the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Just remember, those other countries are blessed by the living God. We have the same God. Don't let nobody fool you that Ishmael and Isaac don't have the same God. They got the same God and they got the same Father. The only difference between Ishmael and Isaac is they got different mamas. They got the same God and they got the same mama. And there's 12 nations over there in the Middle East that God say of Ishmael, they are blessed. They are not children of the promise, but they are blessed. And that's all that prejudiced white man do, is go around and take stuff and kill stuff and slaughter people in God's name when they're really working for the devil. Making people seem like they so evil and so bad. When the prejudiced white people is the scum of the earth. God don't want nothing to do with evil. No matter what race it is. You're gonna stand around and you ain't nothing but a human being and you acting like you some kind of God. God said, either you make the tree good and its fruit good, or you make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. You can't serve God and man and money. You gotta make a decision. In these last days, a decision has got to be made. God don't want no excuse. Either you make the tree good and its fruit good, or you make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. Stand what you believe in and believe what you stand for. Be who you are. If you know good, you know good. Quit running around like you a sheep when all you is a wolf wearing sheep clothing. Be a man. Don't try to hide under sheep wool. Thank you.